So we're going to talk about radical functions, characteristics, and transformations. We've looked at these characteristics of quadratic functions, absolute value functions before, and we are now looking at a radical function. So radical functions parent function is y equals square root of x, and then we are going to also look at y equals cube root of x. So first, let's look at y equals square root of x. Do you guys remember what domain is? Domains are, you can think about x. So x goes from left to right. So we're going to try to read the graph from the very left to very right. So the very left point that I see is this one. So your domain starts from that point, which is 0. And we want to include that point, so I use the bracket. And then very right point is this arrow. So since we don't know when arrow will stop, but it's gonna go to continuously until it reaches infinity. So for infinity, you need to close it with a parenthesis. And then for range, and then I'm gonna actually write it in set notation as well. So your x values are starting at 0, and it needs to be greater or equal to 0. And do you guys remember what range is? X or y? Since we've done x, range is y. So y goes bottom to the top. So we're going to try to read the lowest point, which is also this point. So starting from that point, and then the highest point is going to be also this arrow. So we're going to try to read this arrow's y value. So start from 0. And then it goes continuously up until positive infinity. And then you need to close it with parenthesis. So y's are equal to 0, equal or greater than 0 also. So now we are going to describe end behavior. So end behavior, we only describes it when it ends with an arrow. So left side, we don't have to worry about end behavior. We're going to write the right side behavior. So for right side, goes that way. So as x approaches positive infinity, you're gonna write y's value. So because of the arrow, it's gonna go up until positive infinity. And we're going to also write x-intercept and y-intercept. X-intercept, as you know, the graph and then x-axis meet right here. So x-intercept is 0, 0. And then y-intercept, the graph and y-axis cross right here. So again, it's 0, 0. And that point is also called end point, because the graph ends right there. And then we're gonna talk about now cube root functions, parent function. So I'm gonna go down a little bit. And then we're gonna talk about this. So again, we're gonna talk about domain, range, and behaviors. So the difference between the previous graph and this one is, you see this graph, the previous one only had, it ended over here and it only had like above x axis, but this one has this bottom part as well. So the range should be different, and also domain should be different. So you, again, domain is from left to right. So the very left point that I see is this one. I'm gonna circle this one, is the very left point, which has the arrow, which means it goes continuously to the very end. So the left very end is negative infinity, right end is positive infinity. So that's why that's the very left point, and this is the very right point. So when you're describing left to right, it's gonna be negative infinity to positive infinity. And whenever it's infinity, you need to use parentheses. And then for domain, for range, it goes the same way. Very bottom to very bottom. I'm gonna circle with red pen. Very bottom. Oh, my pen is not working. So it's also very bottom to very top, which is gonna be, very bottom is negative infinity, very top is positive infinity. So your range is gonna be also this. And then because both ends have arrows, we can describe end behavior for the left end and the right end. Left end goes, as x approaches negative infinity, you need to describe your y. In right end, you have to describe your right side. So because it's right side, your x is going towards positive infinity, and you're going to describe its y's. So for left end, it approaches negative infinity. Your right end, it approaches positive infinity. Then we're going to talk about x-intercept and y-intercept. So where the graph crosses with x-axis is right here. So it's 0, 0. And where the graph and y-axis crosses is right there. So again, it's 0, 0. And that point is also right in the middle of the graph. So that's called midpoint. So the square root radical function has endpoints, and this function has midpoint. So now we're going to talk about transformation. Whenever you transform your graph, your endpoint will move. So we're going to move on to the right side. And then I know it might have been boring, but now you have a job to do. So I'm going to show you what you need to do now. So let's move on to the right side. I'm gonna move on to the right side. Yeah, mine is like below here, but you guys do have it on your right side. And what I want you to do is, you need to write down two things here. First, on the left side, I want you to write down its endpoint. So for the left column, you're gonna write endpoint. And then you're gonna describe its transformation. And then right side, you're gonna describe So that's for the left side. Right side, you're gonna describe midpoint and then transformation. So I'll do the first example. So you're gonna bring up your Desmos. So you're gonna open up your laptop and you're gonna put your Desmos. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna type in your parent function first. There's your parent function. And then the first graph that I wrote here is square root of x plus 2. So go down, and then you're gonna write square root of x. And then I'm gonna go out of the radical, and then I'm gonna add 2. And then now I'm going to locate my 2 endpoints here. So one is right here. So the original one's endpoint is 0, 0. Now new endpoint is 0, 2. And I'm gonna compare these two. After you transform your graph, now your endpoint has gone up by 2. So I'm gonna go back to my worksheet and then I'm gonna write down what I have seen. So you're gonna write down your endpoint. It's 0, 2, and then because its endpoint is 0, 0, the transformation here is up 2. And then you're gonna graph the next one and you'll see your endpoint has been shifted. So you're gonna write down endpoint and then up or down and then how much you're gonna write. So I'm gonna give you some word phrases here. You're gonna use up, down, stretch, compress, flip. These are the words that you're gonna use. So I'm gonna jump down to number 9, and then I'm gonna show you number 9, and then you need to complete the other ones, but I'm gonna show you number 9, and then also number 11, and then I'm gonna compare the difference between those two. And then I'm gonna actually show you 13 as well, what happens when you have a negative. But you do yourself and then see for yourself. So for number 9, so you can stop the video and then do it yourself and then maybe check later. So if you have 3 over there, see your graph is much taller. So then we use the verb stretch. And then you're gonna write stretch by that number, 3. Okay, so you're gonna write stretch by 3. And then you see the endpoint hasn't changed. Only your graph has been dilated. That's what you've seen. And also, when you go back here, then if I type in 1/2, if I do 1/2 and then square root of x, then your graph is green now. So your graph is lower than the original one. So then we describe it as compress, because your graph has been compressed, pushed down. So I'm gonna write that down. And then one more thing, I was gonna show you what happens when you have negative sign. So when you have negative sign, your graph flips. So same endpoint, but it has been flipped. So I'm going to go back and then describe all the changes here. So for number 9, I can say stretch by 3. Then your endpoint is again 0, 0, 0, 0. Compress by 1/2. Then the 13 flipped. Then see and what endpoint is and how it is related to these two values. And then you're gonna describe the transformation. Now I'm gonna check if you did it or not when I come back next week. So make sure you complete this paper, and then you're gonna, after you're done with this, you're gonna continue with the back page notes. So notes, you just need to write like how much, like what these H and K value does to your graph. I know that there is a typo. You have to change third line, you'll have H, you have to change it to K. Here, K. And then see what happens, and then you're gonna describe. Okay? So you have to finish this paper, and then maybe I'll let you, once you finish with this paper, you can have like 3-minute break, and then you need to start solving equations because that's gonna be on the quiz. Okay, bye guys. I'll see you a little bit later.